Some people, for whatever reason, lack discipline. I always find the lack of discipline astounding. Depending on the type of person you are, you can either learn discipline or fall to the waste side. Here is the story of an entitled narcissist who lacks discipline. This is the case of Amy Bishop, a woman who had the ability to do great things. However, her lack of discipline destroyed her. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Amy Bishop was 44 at the time of the shooting, also married to a man named Jimmy James Anderson and mother to 4 children. She grew up in Massachusetts, attended Braintree High School, and completed her undergraduate degree at Northeastern University in Boston, where her father, Samuel Bishop, was a professor in the art department. She earned her PhD in genetics from Harvard University. Bishop's 1993 dissertation at Harvard was titled "The Role of Methoxsatine in the Respiratory Burst of Phagocytes." Her research interests included induction of adaptive resistance to nitric oxide in the central nervous system and utilization of motor neurons for the development of neural circuits grown on biological computer chips. An anonymous source at Harvard said that Bishop's work was of poor quality and undeserving of a doctoral degree, calling it local scandal number 1. Bishop joined the faculty of UAH's Department of Biological Sciences as an assistant professor in 2003. She was teaching 5 courses before the shooting. Previously, she was an instructor at Harvard Medical School. She and her husband's portable cell incubator came in 3rd in a technology competition, winning $25,000. Prodigy Biosystems, where Anderson is employed, raised $1.25 million to develop the automated cell incubator. President David Williams considered that the incubator would change the way biological and medical research is conducted. But some scientists consulted by the press declared it unnecessary and too expensive. Bishop, a second cousin of the novelist John Irving, had written 3 unpublished novels. One featured a woman scientist working to defeat a pandemic virus and struggling with suicidal thoughts at the prospect of not earning tenure. According to an article in The New Yorker, the novels reportedly reveal a deep preoccupation with the concept of deliverance from sin. Bishop was a member of the Hamilton Writers Group while living in Ipswich, Massachusetts in the late 1990s, and was said to believe that writing would be her ticket out of academia. Members of the club said she would frequently cite her Harvard degree and family ties to Irving to boost her credential as a serious writer. Another member described her as smart but abrasive in her interactions and as feeling entitled to praise. Bishop had a literary agent but had not published any books. Several colleagues had expressed concern over Bishop's behavior. She was described as interrupting meetings with bizarre tangents, left-field kind of stuff, strange and crazy. One of these colleagues was a member of Bishop's tenure review committee. After her tenure was denied and she learned that this colleague had called her crazy. Full citation needed. Bishop filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, alleging sex discrimination, citing the professor's remark as possible evidence. The professor did not retract his comments. The professor was given the opportunity to back off the claim or to say it was a flippant remark. But he didn't. "I said she was crazy multiple times and I stand by that," the professor said. "This woman has a pattern of erratic behavior. She did things that weren't normal. She was out of touch with reality. Bishop was reportedly a poor instructor and unpopular among her students. She dismissed several graduate students from her lab, and others sought transfers out. In 2009, several UAH students said they complained to administrators about Bishop on at least 3 occasions, saying she was ineffective in the classroom and had odd, unsettling ways. A petition signed by dozens of students was sent to the department head. The complaints did not result in any classroom changes. Also, in 2009, Bishop published an article in a Vanity Press medical journal listing her husband and 3 minor children as co-authors. The article was later removed from the journal website. On December 9, 1986, Bishop, then 21 years old, fatally shot her 18-year-old brother Seth at their home in Braintree, Massachusetts. She fired 2 shots from a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, one into her bedroom wall and one into Seth's chest. Later, she pointed the gun at a moving vehicle on the adjacent road and tried to get into the vehicle. Bishop and her mother told police the shooting had been an accident. Police found a live round in the gun's chamber, meaning that Bishop must have racked its slide after shooting her brother. After a brief inquiry into the incident by the Massachusetts State Police in 1986, they repeated the Braintree Police Department's initial assessment that the shooting was accidental. Then, Norfolk County District Attorney Bill Delahunt, later elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, did not file charges. Detailed records of the shooting had disappeared by 1988. Braintree Police Chief Paul Frazier said on February 13, 2010, "The report's gone, removed from the files." After speaking with officers involved with the case in 1986, Frazier called the accident description inaccurate. He and others said that then-Chief John Polio had ordered Bishop released to her mother Judy, who was allegedly a political supporter of the chief as a member of the Braintree town meeting. They said that Bishop had demanded to meet with Polio personally after the arrest, instead of being charged for the shooting. Frazier was not on duty during the incident, but recalled how frustrated the members of the department were over the release of Bishop. Other officers, Frazier said, believed that Polio had fixed a murder, resulting in what he described as a miscarriage of justice, just because it was a friend of his. The retired Polio denied that there had been a cover-up. Frazier's 2010 account and the 1987 Massachusetts State Police report differ in several key details, including whether Bishop had been arguing with her brother or with her father before the shooting. On February 16, 2010, Braintree officials announced that the files previously missing had been found. Then Norfolk County District Attorney Bill Keating, who was himself elected to the House of Representatives later that year to replace Delahunt, concluded that probable cause existed in 1986 to arrest and charge Bishop for crimes committed after she fled the house. She had taken the shotgun to a nearby auto dealership shop and brandished it at 2 employees in an attempt to get a car. Bishop could have been charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, carrying a dangerous weapon, and unlawful possession of ammunition. The statute of limitations had expired on these charges. The most serious charge considered in 1986 was manslaughter for the death of her brother. Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick ordered the state police to review their investigation, saying, "It is critical that we provide as clear an understanding as possible about all aspects of this case and its investigation to ensure that where mistakes were made, they are not repeated in the future." An investigation was opened in which the state cooperated with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office to assess the handling of the case by the state, the local police, and the then district attorney. On February 25, 2010, Keating sent District Court Judge Mark Coven a letter to start a judicial inquest into the 1986 shooting. Keating said that recently enlarged crime scene photos from Bishop's bedroom reveal a news article in which a similar crime was reported. He speculated that this article may relate to Bishop's intent. Keating did not identify the specific news article, but the Boston Globe wrote that an internet search revealed that 2 weeks earlier, the parents, as explained by Williams, the university president, given that Bishop had been denied tenure in March 2009, she could not expect to have her teaching contract renewed after March 2010. She appealed the decision to UAH's administration. Without reviewing the content of the tenure application, it determined that the process was carried out according to policy and denied the appeal. The routine faculty meeting at which Bishop opened fire was unrelated to her tenure. Bishop's husband said the denial of tenure had been an issue in recent months and described the tenure process as a long, basically hard fight. He said that it was his understanding that Bishop exceeded the qualifications for tenure and that she was distressed at the likelihood of losing her position barring a successful appeal. She approached members of the University of Alabama System's Board of Trustees and hired a lawyer who was finding one problem after another with the process. One point of dispute was whether 2 of her papers had been published in time to count toward tenure. Bishop, who gave more weight to obtaining patents than publishing papers, reportedly received several warnings that she needed to have more publications in order to receive tenure. Of Patrick Duffy, the actor who played Bobby Ewing on the popular television show Dallas, were killed in Montana by an assailant wielding a 12-gauge shotgun, who then held up a car dealership, stole a pickup truck, and fled. On March 1, 2010, Detective Brian Howe, the state police's lead investigator in the 1986 shooting, said he looked forward to addressing the judicial inquest and stood by his 1987 report. He had agreed with Captain Theodore Bucher, the late Braintree lead investigator, that the shooting was accidental. Howe said he was assigned to the case nearly 2 hours after the shooting and immediately called Braintree police. Bucher told him that he would not be needed that day and that Bishop had already been released into her parents' custody. Howe said that Braintree police never informed him that she had later allegedly accosted employees at a car dealership at gunpoint, demanding a car. He said that he repeatedly requested the December 6th incident reports from the Braintree police, but never received them. On March 1, 2010, Keating announced that an inquest would be held on April 13th. Judge Coven, First Justice of Quincy District Court, was scheduled to hold the inquest. During the inquest, Braintree police officers testified that Judy Bishop had asked for Polio by name before the officers were ordered to release Amy Bishop. Judy, Polio, and his wife all testified that Judy and Polio had not been friends, and Judy denied that she had asked for Polio at the station. On June 16, 2010, Amy Bishop was charged with first-degree murder in her brother's death, nearly 24 years after his shooting. Keating commented, "I can't give you any explanations, I can't give you excuses, because there are none. Jobs weren't done, responsibilities weren't met, and justice wasn't served." Bishop's parents, who claimed that the Braintree officers lied about the events at the station, issued a statement after the indictment. They wrote, "We cannot explain or even understand what happened in Alabama. However, we know that what happened 23 years ago to our son, Seth, was an accident." The protagonist of the first of Bishop's unpublished novels is a woman who, as a child, attempted to frighten a friend after an argument, but accidentally killed the friend's brother. Patrick Radden Keefe speculated after reviewing the evidence that Bishop had meant to frighten or shoot her father with the shotgun after an argument and mistook her brother for him. "I came to believe that there had indeed been a cover-up between Bishop's parents and Polio," he wrote, "but that it had been an act not of conspiracy but of compassion, a parochial gesture of mercy and denial that had an incalculable cost decades later in Alabama." This is what I mean by lack of discipline, and also the entitlement. Here is a woman who literally could have possibly done great things, but literally lacks the discipline and discernment for basic things. Also, the fact that she managed to get off scot-free after killing her brother just proves the entitlement, and her friend in a high place of authority also played a part toward the creation of said entitlement. I do feel as though he covered up a crime and not just him. The parents had a hand in it as well. All in all, I believe all 3 of them should be held accountable. Me personally, I'd love to throw knuckles at all of them for 24 hours straight. But anyway, moving on to another bizarre matter, the pipe bomb incident. In 1993, Bishop and her husband were suspected of sending 2 letter bombs which failed to explode to Paul Rosenberg, a Harvard Medical School professor. Rosenberg was Bishop's supervisor at a children's hospital neurobiology lab and had given a negative evaluation of Bishop, who resigned from her position. Bishop was afterwards said to be on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and her husband reportedly said that he wanted to shoot, stab, or strangle Rosenberg. The investigation was closed with no charges filed. After the Huntsville shootings, the case was reviewed, but it remains unsolved. I don't understand why she's even still free up to this point. There is something completely unstable in the mind of this woman. It's mind-blowing. This is someone that needs to be in a padded cell, stewing in her thoughts with her degree. And the fact that no one has clapped her yet is probably another reason why she continues to do shit. Some people just need a good ass beating. But moving on to the next issue, the International House of Pancakes assault. On March 16, 2002, Bishop was involved in a fight with another customer at an IHOP restaurant in Peabody, Massachusetts. The other customer had taken the last available booster seat at the restaurant, leading Bishop to confront her. When the woman refused to give up the seat, Bishop punched her in the head while yelling, "I am Dr. Amy Bishop." Bishop pleaded guilty to assault and received probation. Prosecutors recommended that she attend anger management classes, but her husband said she never went. And I still stand by the ass beating. She needs it bad. People like this could use a good rock bottom. It seems the more she gets away with things, the more her antics escalate. I haven't even gotten to the shootings yet. Okay, here we go. On February 12, 2010, 3 people were killed and 3 others wounded in a shooting at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, UAH in Huntsville, Alabama, United States. During a routine meeting of the biology department attended by approximately 12 people, Amy Bishop, a biology professor at the university, began shooting those nearest her with a Ruger P95 handgun. Bishop was charged with 1 count of capital murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. On September 11, 2012, she pleaded guilty to the charges after family members of victims petitioned the judge against use of the death penalty. The jury heard a condensed version of the evidence on September 24th, as required by Alabama law. The same day, Bishop was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In March 2009, Bishop had been denied tenure at UAH, making spring 2010 her last semester there per university policy. Due to the attention she attracted as a result of the shooting, previous violent incidents in which Bishop had been involved or implicated were reevaluated. In 1986, Bishop had shot and killed her brother Seth in Braintree, Massachusetts, in an incident that was, at the time, officially ruled an accident. She was also questioned along with her husband, Jimmy Anderson, after a 1993 pipe bomb incident was directed at her lab supervisor. On the day of the shooting, Bishop taught her anatomy and neurosciences class at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, UAH. A student later said Bishop seemed perfectly normal during the lecture. Bishop then attended a biology department faculty meeting on the 3rd floor of the Shelby Center for Science and Technology. According to witnesses, 12 or 13 people attended the meeting, which was described as an ordinary faculty meeting. Bishop's behavior was also described as normal just before the shooting. Bishop sat quietly at the meeting for 30 to 40 minutes before pulling out a Ruger P95 9mm handgun just before 4 o'clock. A witness said that she got up suddenly, took out a gun, and started shooting at each one of us. She started with the one closest to her and went down the row shooting her targets in the head. Another survivor said, "This wasn't random shooting around the room. This was execution style." Those who were shot were on one side of the oval table. The 5 on the other side dropped to the floor. After Bishop had fired several rounds, Deborah Moriarty, a biochemistry professor, said that she pointed the gun at her and pulled the trigger, but heard only a click, as her gun either jammed or ran out of ammunition. She described Bishop as initially appearing angry, then perplexed. Joseph Ung, an associate professor, said Moriarty attempted to stop Bishop by approaching her and asking her to stop, and helped the other survivors push Bishop from the room and block the door. Ung said, "Moriarty was probably the one that saved our lives. She was the one that initiated the rush." The suspected murder weapon was found in a bathroom on the 2nd floor of the Science Building. Bishop did not have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. She was arrested a few minutes later outside the building. Shortly after her arrest, Bishop was quoted as saying, "It didn't happen. There's no way." When asked about the deaths of her colleagues, Bishop replied, "There's no way. They're still alive." Police interviewed Bishop's husband, Jimmy Anderson, after it was determined that she had called him to pick her up after the shooting. They did not charge him. The couple were seen leaving their home with duffel bags on Friday afternoon before the shooting. Anderson said that Bishop had borrowed the gun used in the shooting and that he had escorted her to an indoor shooting range in the weeks before the incident. Shortly after Bishop's arrest, there was concern that she had booby-trapped the science building with a herpes bomb intended to spread the virus. She had worked with the herpes virus during her postdoctoral studies and had written a novel describing the spread of a virus similar to herpes throughout the world. The police had already searched the premises, finding only the murder weapon. What the hell is up with some people? A herpes bomb? Seriously? What the actual fuck is wrong with people? I should probably stop asking that question. There is no understanding the mind of a lunatic. This case is just insanely weird, and trying to act like you have no memory of what happened is insane. You arrived to a meeting, then opened fire, and shortly after that you're brain dead? And yet you were seen with a duffel bag. This entire scenario screams well thought out and planned. I honestly have no sympathy for this woman. She shouldn't be allowed to have any air supply. But anyway, on September 24th, 2012, Bishop was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Norfolk County declined to seek her extradition. Through her Massachusetts lawyer, Bishop said she wanted to be tried for her brother's death in order to vindicate herself. She is serving her sentence at the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women in Wetumpka, Alabama. As of 2020, her security classification is medium, and her residence is a dormitory instead of a cell block. After pleading guilty in September 2012 and waiving her right to appeal, Bishop filed an appeal on February 11, 2013. The appeal stated that she was not informed of the rights she would be waiving by pleading guilty, that she was not correctly informed of the minimum range of punishment, and that the circuit court failed to explain that she could withdraw her plea. On April 26, 2013, the Court of Criminal Appeals of Alabama rejected the appeal, holding that Bishop failed to challenge the validity of her guilty pleas in the circuit court and did not file either a motion to withdraw her pleas or a motion for a new trial. On April 18, 2021, Bishop's 20-year-old son, Seth Anderson, named for her late brother, was fatally shot in an unrelated incident in Huntsville. 18-year-old Vincent Johan Harmon was arrested and initially charged with reckless murder. A grand jury later reduced the charge to manslaughter. As for Amy Bishop, she is currently still serving her sentence without parole. This is one of the craziest cases I've read. There were so many court miscues, too many lenient punishments, and so many self-entitled behaviors and decisions. I'm sure some people may have seen a softer side to her, but after reading this case, I couldn't see any redeeming qualities in this woman. Even at a young age, she was a piece of shit with a degree. And I hope she is getting the mother of all ass-kickings in prison by everyone in there, to the point where she's getting tossed around and has just enough teeth to chew her food on one side of her mouth. Rot in there for the rest of your pathetic life.